Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Long and Short of It. I'm Jennifer Giroux.
I'm Jaacob Bowden.
And we're your hosts. We're a couple. You're on a golf journey.
I am on a golf journey. I'm the professional golfer and explorer.
Yes. And I'm your partner in crime. And we are using this conversation as a way to delve deeper into not just your moments, experiences of your golf journey, but also what are the deeper aspects of life. So what are we doing today?
So normally from that memoir was a deck of 80 cards that were conversation starter cards, but today we thought we'd just pick a topic on our own rather than choosing randomly. So yeah, we're gonna do that today. And then also, we do want to dedicate this episode. If you're watching on video, you'll be able to see this, but if you're just listening on audio, we have a photo of our cat, Mr. Moses, who just passed away at 18 years old. And we filmed our last episode and he was walking around the frame and we commented on him, and little did we know that 2 days later he was going to be gone from us. So this episode is dedicated to our Mr. Moses.
Yeah. It's still hard, losing in a way like a family member. We went on a journey with him for, he's almost been a part of most of your golf journey as well. So he saw.
Yeah, it's a lot of end of an era in a lot of ways. I turned pro in 2003. We met in 2004. He was born in 2007, so it is 2025 now. So he was definitely part of. He saw all the behind the scenes as well.
He did see all of it, and he typically, and there's so many videos where he made an appearance.
Yes.
I think what's interesting about your golf journey is when you took that leap and you were a computer engineer and you were making a good salary and definitely had a trajectory to continue to make a good salary, stable, continue to, do that and have that sort of quote unquote sense of security. When you embarked on your golf career, it wasn't just you becoming a pro golfer, but also you became an entrepreneur. And I'm an entrepreneur now. I have a nonprofit, I have a social impact consultancy. So I have 2 businesses that I run all on my own, with others actually. But when you do that, when you are your own wealth creation, it really invites you, challenges you, all of the things to grow. And you suddenly are the one that's responsible for procuring the money, getting whatever, so you can have a living, so you can pay the bills. And I think, and with golf, you have had to, you play tournaments, but that's so top heavy. It's not always guaranteed that you're going to win. So you've had to shape out this entrepreneurial journey to also create other pathways for income.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that being a professional athlete in some sports, but particularly in a sport like golf, where it's a quote-unquote individual sport, but really you're the CEO of your own company in a way, and you're the fronting, public-facing part of that. But often behind the scenes, there's a lot of other people involved. Like you might have a bookkeeper or an accountant or a financial advisor, or that can help you with organizing an LLC or something like that. Or you might have coaches or trainers or physiotherapists, mental coaches. There can really be a whole suite, like your own company. Basically, it is your own company. So a lot of people don't realize that's, and then things change when you go from working for someone else to working for yourself. It changes the sport that you maybe play and love, and then you introduce money into that, and having to make a living out of that there's things that you may have to deal with internally and growth that's required to be able to do that. But then not just, it's the same kind of thing when you're an entrepreneur also. It's like all of a sudden it all falls on you and you're responsible for everything. Really. Yeah. The buck stops with you.
Yeah. I mean, ever since I embarked on my own journey in 2021. And so we always had, sort of the consistency of, so me working at a company or an organization and getting even health insurance through that, and suddenly I jump out and go on my own as well in 2021. And suddenly I felt like I could understand a lot more of the different emotional ups and downs you have been going through over the years as you navigate, well, where is the money going to come from to pay this bill? It's not anywhere in sight what's going to happen, or what am I going to do to create that? And I think that's helped me in the last, 4 years, just connect more deeply to that experience and to join you in that part of growth that I did not really connect to before. I mean, I connected to it atmospherically, but I really didn't understand. And so I think what I'd like to do today is actually open the door. We already are to, you're in our home, but just open a door to like where are we at now as we, think about wealth consciousness. And we use the word consciousness because it really is, sort of a mindset. And what are the ways that, I want you to share what you kind of came across and like how you've been able to use that as a framework for us to start talking about where we are maybe limiting ourselves. And so almost like speaking to each other as like entrepreneurs, shared business owners, and where do we have room to grow? For me, like talking through that with you, this framework has been really helpful because it's already gotten me thinking. And I think this is something that we all can relate to, whether we like it or not. Like money is sort of a paradigm in which how we operate in this world. I mean, in order to live, in order to have a home, in order to, experience this world, we all need an income. And, it's something that sometimes people don't like to talk about. Couples fight over. It can create a lot of stress because it just carries so much power. So when we use the word consciousness, it's really around trying to shift that energy and open it up. And, despite like the ups and downs that we've gone through money-wise, I think we've always, been able to more or less like keep a respectful relationship. Like we had moments where it's just like, what's going on? What are we gonna do? But for the most part, I feel like we've been pretty conscious.
Yeah. I think we've managed the challenges of it well. And actually, this would be a good time to share our call-in number because I feel like there are, I don't know if you want to comment on your own experience or what's worked for you or something that maybe you've learned. Our number is 313-356 6830. Again, 313-356-6830. Feel free to leave comments if you're watching the video, or definitely call in, leave a voicemail message, and we can use it as a prompt to talk about some things later. But
so what's this framework that you tell me about what happened? So
yes, a little bit of backstory. Most professional golfers that make it all the way to what people would know of more popularly like the PGA Tour, for example, come from wealth. They're born.
They call it like a trust fund, or what is it?
There's a nickname for the PGA Tour called the Trust Fund Tour.
Yeah.
And that you basically need to come from a trust fund or you need some kind of money source to be able to, and it's like that in other sports. Tennis is like that. There's lots of sports where you need to travel, you need equipment, you need resources behind you. And I didn't come from that.
Well, you didn't have that, nor did you have, like in the case of like Tiger Woods or, the Williams sisters' parents, right? Who, as soon as these kids were born, it was like they are shaped, they are cultivated to play at the top level of their sport. And they have a parent that is basically their coach, just, carrying that forward. So you didn't have either the money and the context or your parents. Your dad was like really supportive, definitely athletic, but it's not like, he was always taking you out to play XYZ and just coaching, you know what I mean? There was nobody in your life. It doesn't have to be necessarily your parent, but it was nobody in your life that was cultivating that at an extreme level, nor did you have the funds to do that.
Yeah, well, I was dealing with a couple things. I come from a family of teachers and athletes, pretty high level athletes. My uncle played professional basketball in Europe. I have there's a lot of college athletes in my family, but I was dealing with having skipped a grade. So although my dad and mom were supportive of me being an athlete, and they would take me to games, there's been studies. I think we may have talked about this in another episode. There's been studies about athletes being born at a certain time of year having a
advantage or disadvantage,
direct correlation to whether or not they got college scholarships and things like that. So
a physical advantage or disadvantage.
Not only was I in the middle of the year, I was a year behind. So I always kind of felt like, oh, I'm a late developer. But actually, if I was in my age group, I was like excelling. So my parents were supportive. And so I was like moving along with my sports, but it didn't really get good, I guess, until post-teenage years. Playing basketball in college, getting a tryout for the Twins with baseball, and then ultimately giving it a go at golf when I was 27. But trying to pursue golf when, back to the money issues or the money challenges of it. I didn't know people with money. There's no traditional funding paths. Like you can't go to the bank and get a loan to like start this business, even though it is a business. Or if there is, I didn't know. I didn't know what.
But even that aspect of how to work with money, like that in of itself can be very gated, right? So one of the things that I've learned about over the years around meeting higher net worth individuals who have greater, higher incomes is how they use the resources of money, how they take out loans against their stocks, how they take out, they're constantly borrowing. And I wasn't even also growing up in a family where that was really talked about, right? We didn't talk about how to use your money, leverage that to make more money. There was no conversations around that. So I think that's definitely related to you, but I think that's a lot of us, like for the most part, unless you were kind of developed or born into those high net worth families, or you have a parent who's just taken a particular, desire to like really develop that, you're not really exposed. And so nobody really, instead you're said, debt is bad, unless it's like a mortgage or you take out a loan for school, but no one really talks to you about like, how do you, if you are embarking, if you were to go back in time and you knew all that you knew now, maybe you would be able to position yourself and take out $100,000 or $200,000 loan, as a big bet on yourself and leverage, your financial position at that time. Who knows? But I just think it's very common that a lot of us aren't really developed in that way. And so in a way, it kind of also, I don't want to say creates a disadvantage, but you're not operating at the same sort of position as others might be. You don't have the knowledge. It takes a longer time to get that knowledge if you ever get it at all.
If you're born into certain circumstances, there can be historically a knowledge, know-how advantage and now that's becoming more, and that's what we'll get into next here, is now there's more knowledge and information flows more freely and know-how is more accessible for a greater number of people, which is great. So, even just back when I started in 2003, it was like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I need to figure out a way I want to do it. I have a passion for it.
But what you did was you're like, all right, I put, 40,000 into an IRA. I'll just take that out, right? And so
I had between 22 and 27. I knew my parents were savers, but not investors. But they taught me about compound interest. So right away at 22, I started putting 401k money into my company 401k. And between 22 and 27, when I started my golf career, I'd already put in 20,000. I'd also saved 20,000 just as a matter of like my dad teaching me to save some. He wasn't an investor, but a saver. So like I was putting some in a 401k to get a jump on compound interest. So at 27, when I was like, all right, I want to pursue this golf career, I need money, so let me just bet this on myself because I don't know any other way to do it. I don't know who else. There's a funny story. Further on down in my journey, I was just asking around people like, how do people fund this? Because there are isolated cases where,
of course, there's always like the little person that gets through, and then that becomes a story of like anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it, but really,
it's not true.
Not so much. Yes and no.
There's luck. There's conditions, and persistence and qualities, absolutely. But there's also a lot of luck.
Well, there's this guy that owned a business that I came into contact with. I don't want to say his name, but I was like, you're in the golf industry. How do people do this when they don't come from that or don't have the connections? He's like, oh, well, the most common way is just to round up a bunch of people at your country club and then just get everyone to pool money together. So like,
that's what you do.
Get 10 people to put in 10 grand a year every year until you make it.
You just got to get at the country club. We would cost like $20,000 to join and $1,000.
And I just listened and I was just like, oh, okay, thanks. Like, I was appreciative.
I'll go do that. Yeah, of course.
But what if you can't get in the country club?
Yeah. Or what if you don't have the money, you can't get in the country club. Yeah.
So that was kind of why I thought.
But I think that's interesting because he just talked about it so naturally. So that was was his norm, right? That's just like, it's as easy as that. This is my reality, and this is what you do. Not knowing and not appreciating that you had a radically different reality. I remember growing up and our country club, not ours, like we weren't members, but the road into my parents' neighborhood, right at the very beginning of it, was a country club, and still there to this day, and it's beautiful. But I mean, I just was like, I'll never be able to go there. And I remember I had a friend who took me.
Literally gated.
It was literally
brick iron gate, right?
And we rode into our neighborhood. My parents, lived in a pretty modest community, still do, our neighborhood, and still do. But it was just like, I just remember those gates just felt very, very real. And the one time that I went there, I had a friend whose family was members, and she invited me in for a pool day. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so amazing, because it's just, these gates are real.
Yeah.
And within those gates, people are operating in a different reality. They're using money in different ways. They have access to money in different ways. It's maybe even been generational. And so, I think a big part of your journey and our journey in this has been, sort of navigating and learning and, evolving our relationship with money. And, we're both very growth-oriented people, and realizing it's not just about a set of practices, but it's also about a mindset.
Yeah. As part of being a professional athlete, a lot of the, talking about a team, part of the team often is mental coaching or just internal coaching, career coaching. You have that kind of person to help with your inner work. And it's not just about playing good golf. It's also about what internally do I need to deal with or process or learn or grow in relationship with money and finances. So I remember somebody in my family is like, oh, people with money are evil. So it's like, if you grow up around that kind of thing,
yeah,
it's like, oh, well,
I don't want to. You're remembering, yeah, exactly.
And you got to dig around and uproot that, and then
yes,
all those kinds of things like that.
Yeah,
that you may have to deal with, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So recently, I think, just as in our journey, and you're always, I feel like you go through very thematic moments of learning. Wealth consciousness has definitely been one that's sort of been like an underlying current. But I feel like recently you came across. What did you come across?
Yeah, so part of this rebrand that you helped me isolate and uncover, professional golfer and explorer, one of the things I like to do, I realized that I like to do now looking back, is I'll get curious about something, and then I'll just dive into the hole and then dig around and just gather all kinds of morsels of data and insight and research. And you do this professionally also, in a way, with your career.
Mm-hmm.
But so this explorer part of me, so I wanted to now with all this information out on the internet, I was like, let me look at money again and wealth creation. And so I pulled together, and we have AI to help us now dig through these things and get insights. So I pulled together, I think maybe 600 or so interviews of people that created wealth, not from, say, working a corporate job and starting early by putting money away in the early 20s, which was my original path that I ended up not going down. But what is the path of maybe faster wealth creation, or the path of how to do that as an entrepreneur or a business owner or something or make it, or through side hustles, that kind of thing. So this guy interviewed 500 or 600 people, millionaires and billionaires. And then I was like, all right, well, this is a really good sample of data here. Let me get all these interviews, pile them together.
Wasn't it the last episode when you did all of that with the putting or whatever? Yeah. So this is him getting all the data.
Yeah. So, right. So I love data.
Yeah.
But also an intuitive, the intuition is important, I think, also. It's not just all about data. I took all the transcripts of all these interviews, skimmed them myself, because AI still isn't perfect. It still makes mistakes. And we know as experts in certain areas that it can make mistakes. You have to be careful with it. But I threw it into ChatGPT, just all right, what patterns do you see here? To kind of reverse engineer a step-by-step pathway for wealth creation, basically, and this type of wealth creation. And so from doing that, I kind of was able to glean 11 steps. And then we've started talking about that to see, all right, first of all, what are these steps? and then what are we doing well, and then where could we learn and maybe apply some things. But also, and it's not just about money, it's about, so this is helpful for me with golf, helpful for you, like you just started a nonprofit, you have your own consulting business, so it can help you with your business as well. You're on a lot of boards, so like from a advisory standpoint as a board member to different companies and all this, so there's like application there. So we kind of started having conversations about how can we apply this in a way that's still authentic to us, right? So
I feel like you're burying the lead. Anyways, yada, yada, yada. You got a list of 11 things, right?
yes,
Because I think like, we don't want to be a podcast or have that conversation where we're just like talking around. I think that what we're also thinking about doing is like how to share this. And it's actually not rocket science. So let's just like share a couple of were a few of the insights that came to light.
so everyone intended to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't accident. People
Right.
set
You set an
out to
intention.
do it. Like,
Yes.
I'm gonna do this.
Is that like when they set out to do it, was that like they put a number on it, or it was just like, I'm going to be...
They just decided that they wanted to be, this is my goal.
Yeah.
And whatever the goal is. So it could be like $50,000 or $1 million.
Or I want to grow my business by X amount, or I want to start a new, like whatever it was to level it up.
So there was a specific intention to go for a specific goal.
Yeah.
I think that was one of them.
I think just like grabbing that for a moment, I think that's something that, because I'm so mission driven, like for me, the return is, yes, I want to live comfortably, but for me, like it's about doing really rewarding work, like living my passion. And so working on projects that for me feel like they're a little piece or a little part of creating a better world. And so for me, when you shared that, I was like, well, I don't usually put targets like that. Money is not, it's a means. It hasn't been my goal.
Or more mission driven than profit driven.
Absolutely. But I think like this aspect of when we do have moments where we talk about, I actually don't want a bigger home. I'm not interested in, some of the certain things that I just love to travel. We love to eat out. We love to, not deal with the stress of not feeling like we have enough, all of those things. So, all of that, I think for me, just hearing that one thing, it just illuminated for me. I actually haven't put any intention around like my business. I have done it a little bit more with the nonprofit. And now I think about it, it has changed a little bit of like, all right, we got to be fundraising for this. And so I just want to call that out as that was I think an oversight. And I think for me, the oversight was, well, I don't want to have a goal be like money. I want a goal to be like impact, like I changed X. So I haven't gotten to the point of what sort of like what I'm going to do with that yet. Whereas you have, for me, I'm still sort of working on that. But yeah. What's the next one?
You were talking about picking a few. What if we picked the few where we could like learn some things from, or do you think we should fire down the?
I mean, we could, pick a few that we could learn from, or we could also make this a 2-part conversation.
All right. Well, let's just go to the second one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All of these people owned businesses or assets. So like you need to be the owner of whatever.
Or have equity in the company.
Right. Yeah, equity. It could be, and it doesn't have to be a business. Yeah, it could be shares. It could be, it could be owning trademark.
Yeah.
That you could set like an intellectual property.
I mean, this is where I'm really interested in business models too, that, with our nonprofit, it's a co-directorship, co-foundership. We're playing with new governance, probably like pre-existing and new governance models around how do we create shared ownership. But I really do. I think there's a couple companies that I've noticed. There's one in Minnesota, I'm forgetting the name, but they have like everybody in the company are shareholders. My previous company I worked with, the one that was doing work internationally, I was a shareholder. I had shares in the company. And it does change it when you are part of the success and you get to own that of that company. So I do think like this aspect of ownership definitely has an impact. For me, I just, feel it differently.
And then the next thing was solve big problems that pay. So,
all right.
Which,
wah, wah. I mean, yes.
It's like you want to work on what you want to work on, but also it's...
I think this is probably where you and I operate a little bit differently. Like if I was solely, or if you were solely focused on money, there is like a lot of, you watch Shark Tank and people are inventing these little, just very specific things. we don't really think or operate like that. These are just people who want to be an entrepreneur. They want to make a business. They want to sell something. And like they create, they identify a need and they create that product. So I think this is like one of those things like, yes, obvious. And I don't know, what do you think about it? Like, what do you do with that?
I think that's like, if you look at Elon Musk, for example, he was thinking when he go back to in his PayPal days, that there were, I think, 2 or 3 areas that were like, where are the areas with humanity that I can do the biggest thing possible? And I think at that point, one of them was like technology was coming around and payment processing and in like the early 2000s. So like he dove into that as his thing because it was an area that he saw that there might be a lot of need for. And it was solving lucrative, it was all around big problem. So it was not necessarily there was going to be a need for it in the coming years and decades.
I think that's actually, you saying that kind of changes my brain a little bit on it. So maybe I'm just, I'm thinking about it in too narrow of a way. I think that example with Elon Musk is really helpful because even with the previous education company I was working with the founders of that company, they had this idea of like how to radically improve education, the access to quality education. And it was a big like moonshot idea, and like they've made incredible progress with that. But they found a big problem to solve for, which is that many kids in the world do not have access to great education. And we're going to create the solution and try to give it a go and solve it. It's big. And so now when you say that, I'm like,
You're impact driven, so you want to make a big impact.
Right.
Thinking of,
am I limiting my size
impact?
Well, and I do that. I work a lot on like through consultancy problems where, they can have really big results. But I got to think about that one more because maybe I've just been dismissing it and I actually am not engaging in the bigness of it.
Okay, so the next one, done is better than perfect. And this is something that I feel like I could improve on, but also I struggle with it a little bit because I have an excellent standard. I was always brought up, or my parents were kind of like, oh, if a job is worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I always feel good when I do a really good job. So this one challenges me a little bit because like I want things to be perfect. And I want to do really well, but then also, I guess the flip side of that is in the process of like trying to make it be so perfect, some things never get out there because I'm like researching, tweaking, and then like, so I think like just the part of this step by step is just put something out there and then get it going and then refine it, try and continually make it better based on feedback from people. I don't know, like I think there's something to this there. Of course, it's like a pattern, but also like I'm a little bit challenged with this because like it frustrates me when I see low quality work or when there's not an excellent standard and I can tell people like skip steps. I'm like, I personally really don't like that when I see that in other businesses and companies. So, and then also like with me, like in the work that I've done, I have this excellent standard, but I haven't always had the financial resources to be able to meet the excellent standard that I have. So I feel like I've been kind of in a bootstrap loop with my career in a way, just like, all right, let me just piecemeal this together and make it as best as I can with the resources that I have, but it's never like where my actual standard is. My absolute standard is. I don't know. What do you think about this?
I think this is one of those things where, I've run into it as well. I have a number of things where, perfection and just the noodling has definitely held me back. I think it really depends on what is the problem you're solving for. Because if you're working on something that really can impact people's life, like even like think about people who are building cars. Like those cars, when they get on the road, better be near perfect, because if they're not, you can have some sort of faulty issue that leads to a catastrophic accident. So, or for example, take like Theranos, that company that was all around like trying to take a blood prick prick of blood and do all of this like expansive testing, and it was a total failure for a lot of different reasons, but they almost got to market. In fact they did, and they
became the billionaire, but then
and I'm sure they were just like trying to, but if you get a wrong blood read, like blood panel, and it tells you it misses something, or that's like threatening. So I really think that this isn't just a blanket statement. If you're making, I don't know, you're trying to innovate scrub brushes for the sink, I think that's pretty, you know what, let's just get a quick and dirty prototype out there. But if you're really actually impacting the health, the livelihood, the well-being of people, then I think I do think that this is where I think like the types of entrepreneurs that were interviewed for this, that were accumulated, we're probably just making like, products that they make our lives maybe a little bit easier, but if we don't have them, it's not like we're gonna be, I don't know, worse off for it. It works to like maybe reduce friction or create a little bit of additional benefits, but nothing like radical. So that's just where I do think that I've gotten a lot looser on like releasing things, like even in draft form, which I would have never done. And I'm just like, oh, here's like a scrappy whatever. But as we get closer to delivery, I do get a lot more precise. So I think this one has a little bit more nuance to it. But I do think there's this aspect of we do need to release a lot more. So even like getting this podcast started, I think this is a perfect example. When we got this podcast started, we're still figuring it out. Like you're hearing it every week if you're tuning in. We're moving around to different parts of our community. We are experimenting with different conversation formats. We brought on a content editor a couple of weeks ago, Martin, shout out. And I think this was like one of those things where like, let's just get it out there.
This was me trying to apply this and put this into action. And it's like this podcast, we're getting it going. It's not perfect right now. It's not at the standard I would really like yet.
Yeah.
But the ball is rolling.
Each
week.
Hit ball, go forward.
Each week we're like, oh, let's do this and then add this and fix this and improve this. So
yeah,
it's getting better. So I don't know, in this particular case, like no one's life is involved. Like a car is not going to crash or something because of like faulty quality work in rushing that. But so this is maybe an example of where we are applying that, I guess, and just trying it and seeing how
I think this is a perfect example. I want to pause there. I think we should just like pause there. We'll pick up this conversation. What number are we at? Is that 4?
We did intend, own, solve big problems. Done is better than perfect. So we got 4.
Okay. So we'll do the next 6. We'll come back together. 7. Oh, because there's 11. I was thinking it's like 10. We'll come back to the rest of them in the next episode. We'll review everything and then go deeper into the rest. And, all of this is, what is this provoking in you? What is this, just based on how we were to open this conversation talking about money as a couple, as entrepreneurs, the journey with that, the sort of gated communities that we've come across and how that impacted our mindsets and our behavior. And then, some of the insights that we've shared with you today. How is that resonating with you? What's resonating with you? Where do you find that you're aligned or you think differently? Or how are you talking about it with your partner? It could be, your partner could be, your spouse, or it could be a deep friendship. It could be a work colleague, a partner in business. I mean, I think that's actually, because we're partner in business, we're partner in life, in love. So, this can apply to. So what is this resonating for you? Any other closing thoughts on your end?
No, I think that's great. Please leave comments. Please call in 313-356-6830. Would love to, have this be a conversation and just hear your experience about it also, because I know I already know some people that are listening to us are entrepreneurs, and money is such a I don't know, not everyone, some people bury their heads in the sand with money, and just it's so like, don't talk about money.
There is a lot of weight, a lot of power.
I think this is good to talk about and worth talking about it. And please
tune in for part 2. Yeah. Support the podcast, leave a comment, tune in, share, and join us for part 2 of this conversation on wealth consciousness, how we're navigating it with tools that we're finding most helpful.
Visit Swingman Golf if you're a golfer, swingmangolf.com.
Yeah.
You can support us that way. And then sponsorship also. We're happy to have podcast sponsors. Sponsors for me as a professional golfer and explorer.
And thanks for joining us in our home. See you next time.
Thanks for being here. See you next time for part 2.
Bye.